The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Hey, welcome back to another edition of Darkside of the Pooch with Ross Bridge Animals. Dr. Rab Stewart, I'm Tony Kurre, and this is Darkside of the Pooch, a little show we do about 30 minutes every single week about pet care and just crazy, wacky stories. And Dr. Rab, how you doing, brother? Everything good?
Bow wow, baby. I'm ready to roll.
All right, man. I'm going to throw some serious stuff at you today. We got some more mutt mail coming through. As a matter of fact, if you go to TonyKurreRadio.net, TonyKurreRadio.net to drop us an email. We got about 3 emails that we'll throw out. Also, an outbreak of CIV, canine influenza virus, on the West Coast, which is something that normally stays out that way, but it's making its way east. We'll find out from Dr. Rab if your pet is safe and why dogs tilt their head. We'll talk about that a little bit later on the show as well. A story we did not get into last week, though, that taxidermy story. Evidently, it's now in vogue for owners to keep their dogs around a little longer, or their cats, to either use them as rugs or actually taxidermy their pets. Now, I've heard about cremation of animals. Can you tell me some of the weird, wild stories of what pet owners do with their favorite pooches or kitty cats after they pass away?
That taxidermy story was wild. And it's been around forever. I mean, you walk through anybody's house in the South and you see deer heads on the wall. But probably one of the craziest things I ever saw was a friend of mine, his grandfather is an avid hunter, and he had all these just incredible mounts all over the walls. But he had a chair that where the cushions of the chair were made from the hide of this exotic animal. I don't even remember what it was. And the armrest had hooves on the end of it from the animal.
Nice.
It was super ornate with other things from the animal. I think that all 4 hooves were used, and there were some antlers, and it looked like some crazy throne from Game of Thrones. But that's probably the craziest, most off the wall thing that I've ever seen made, from an animal.
Can you talk about what exactly happens? So I take my dog in of old age, and you say we need to put Fifi down. What happens to that animal, and how many people do actually cremate their animal, and what cost is entailed in that, and what's that process like?
I think probably 50%, I would say. Well, close to 100% get them cremated, because where we are in the city of Hoover, it's actually illegal to bury an animal in your backyard.
Really?
If you got a place at the lake or whatever, there's probably not a whole lot of regulation there. But where we are in the city limits, you're technically not allowed to do that. So close to 100% will have them cremated.
Now, hold on. What is because I've got 3 of them buried in my backyard and I'm in Hoover. What's the reasoning behind that?
I have no idea. I think that it probably has to do with the fact that a lot of times maybe they don't get deep enough.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's a public health concern, I'm not sure, but you're technically not supposed to do that within the city limits. Is what now? Maybe it's changed. I don't know. Maybe it's changed. But hey, don't worry. I'm not gonna rat you out. You're good with me.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that, because in most cases, I think if you have children, they like to have their animal on your grounds. We have our own little pet cemetery in our backyard.
Yeah, just be sure that it's not over an Indian burial ground, or that thing's gonna come back to life and kill you.
I'll have zombie dogs. So are there anything, because you guys do a really cool thing where you'll take the plaster of a dog's foot or its paw so you can remember it by, there's different types of way you can remember your animals. But as far as having a taxidermy, what would be the process then? They say, okay, put him down, then we want him back. And then I guess you just go through the regular taxidermy process. And have you ever heard of anyone actually using their cat? I sent that picture of a cat rug and the head still attached.
I find that pretty disturbing. Not so much the taxidermy. I mean, I thought it would be kind of cool at times to, if you have a pet that you really love, to have it stuffed and have it in your house. I guess that article, I find it a little strange though. That article mentioned that they usually put them in a position where it looks like they're sleeping. Which is, I mean, I get it because the thing's not going to move. but you're like, it's dead and it looks dead. If I was going to do it, I would have that thing all snarled up, like at the front door,
showing teeth.
When it comes in, just get scared to death. But I think it'd be, I think it would be cool. When I die, I want someone to do this to me and like stand me in the corner of my bedroom to be sure that my wife doesn't remarry. So I can just glare at the bed.
Be a weekend at Rossbridge Animal Hospital's Dr. Rab Stewart. There you go. Rossbridge Vet on Twitter at Rossbridge Vet, 205-208-0301. All the Kurre family of pets go to Rossbridge Animal Hospital, and of course, Dr. Rab Stewart. I sent you this story early this week. Scientists have now discovered the adorable reason why dogs tilt their heads at you. I know when they hear a high-pitched sound, sometimes they'll turn their heads a little bit. When you actually speak normally to them, they tilt your heads. Do you know the answer? Did you read the story?
Yeah, I did, and I agree with it. I mean, it's that they're listening to you, and then they may even understand you. But yeah, because you can always the reason that this wasn't incredible, the reason this wasn't news to me is because, for example, when we have a dog in an exam room and it's on the table and it's looking at us and looking around the room, if there's a strange noise that happens, they will always turn their head. And it's because they're inquisitive and curious and they want to know, what's going on? What is that?
Yeah. I want to share a real quick story for you before we move on, because this has actually happened to me last night. And for people that like to give their dogs rides, and I know a lot of animals absolutely love getting in the car. So last night, I let my dog out. I got home from the store, let my dog out in the backyard, Frisco, my Havanese. I go back down to the car in the driveway. We have a fence around our yard, and I'm opening the back, and I'm taking out the groceries, and I'm getting everything done. And then I close the hatchback, and I go inside the house. And then we can't seem to find Frisco dog. Now, normally he'll get out of the yard, but he comes right back to the front door. It is like 6, 7 o'clock this morning. We still can't find him. He's a little guy. And so I'm freaking out. And so I go to drive my son to school this morning at 6:45. He's in the car. And my dog is not my dog is not a cargo dog. I mean, we don't give him rides. But for whatever reason, he hopped the fence, got in the car, and then I guess slept in the car all night long until we could find him this morning. So what a pleasant surprise that we found Frisco dog this morning on the way to school. I thought that was kind of crazy. You ever had that happen before? Huh?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you lose something, it's usually right underneath your nose, and the further you look out, that's an interesting question, and we haven't gotten that mutt mail. But when you do lose an animal, and maybe it doesn't have a GPS chip in it, or perhaps it doesn't have a collar on it, and it gets outside your neighborhood, do you have any ideas on what's the easiest way to find your pet? And normally, again, it's usually right around the house. It's not miles and miles away, right?
I think it just depends. The best way the first people to start calling is humane societies or animal control in whatever municipality you live in. So start with animal control and then work your way down to humane societies and then start calling local veterinary practices that maybe are around you, because if someone finds it, those are the three places they're going to call. We get or, if you lose an animal, you call a veterinary practice and then they haven't seen it or they don't have it, then you can at least leave the information there. And then if someone does find it, we get calls all the time. Hey, I lost my cat. I lost my dog. It ran away. Can y'all post a picture or, whatever. And sometimes it's a long shot and that to get them back. And that's why the microchip is so important. Because if you get your dog or cat microchipped, as long as it turns up somewhere, and most of the time they do, they're either going to turn up at one of those three places I talked about. And then so they'll scan them for a microchip and they'll find the chip. And then there's an avenue, that you go down after that, and you can get reunited with your pet. So that's a really great thing to do. And it also one of the best things about the microchip is, we do have natural disasters here. Here it's always a tornado usually, but yeah. For people that live down south on the coast, hurricanes and stuff, and that those kind of things, those natural disasters displace a lot of animals. And so the microchip kind of helps reunite if you have something happen like that.
I wanted to attach a GoPro to my dog because it got out, Lizzie, and it got out so often, and I wanted to know where, because it would always come back home, but it'd be gone for hours, and I always wanted to know where it was going. I wanted to let it out, just to let it go, to see where I could find out where exactly it's running. Is there any type of GPS tracking that you can hook up to your iPhone or to your phone to find out exactly where your dog is in real time?
Yeah, they've got collars now that have a GPS in them. The microchips do not have a GPS tracker. So some people think that the microchips we put in, you can watch them, but you can't. But there's some really advanced collars that can give you, I think it can give you heart rate, respiratory rate, a couple of physical parameters, and then you can actually pull them up on a GPS. I don't think there's one with a camera though. I think, but if you put, a GPS on your personal dog, maybe she has a gentleman caller that she's going to meet with. Maybe she doesn't want to have that GoPro on her.
When you go to fish concerts, does your wife put a GPS in your head?
No, because my wife always goes with me.
There you go.
She's the best.
Well, you wait till you and I go on, so we'll have a good time. Ross Bridge Vet, at Ross Bridge Vet on Twitter. The number is 205-208-0301. They're one of the busiest veterinarians hospitals around this area, but they've always got room for more, and he does fantastic work. That's why I take all of my family of pets here from the Kurre clan over to Ross Bridge Vet. He's Dr. Rab Stewart. All right, so I saw this story when we were so rudely interrupted at COVID-19 and couldn't do this show for about 16 or 17 months. We had talked about how pets could get SARS or COVID-19, not the same type that inflicts humans, but cats get them. And now we're finding out over the last 3 months, over 800 dogs have gotten CIV. That would be influenza virus in Los Angeles. This is roughly or normally a West Coast type of disease, and it normally doesn't go this far east, although this one looks like it may fly in the face of that. What exactly is this? Is it regular flu, and is it dangerous to your pets, and why is it moving so much to the east?
Yeah, it's dangerous. And so the canine influenza is there are basically two strains, and it's not like the human flu. Well, at least it hasn't been like the human flu in many years, and the fact that it doesn't mutate. So, every year when we're taking flu vaccines, it's a mutated version of the flu, and we hope that we have guessed correctly with the vaccine because it's constantly mutating. It's not like that in dogs. There's two strains. The place where it came from, people speculate that it came from dog tracks that were once horse tracks. So equine horses, they have a lot of flu as well. So
what do you mean? What do you mean dog tracks and horse tracks? I'm confused. What do you mean?
Well, so a lot of these horse tracks are now dog tracks.
Oh, okay. You're talking about racing tracks.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Race tracks.
Gotcha.
So, maybe some of these tracks started out as horse tracks, but then this, the virus can live for a while in the environment. So, maybe these old horse tracks are now dog tracks, or maybe the horse tracks were kind of doubled as dog tracks. And so the virus kind of jumped from one species to the other. And that's where it originated. So areas that have horse racing or dog racing are actually hotbeds. So Birmingham is one, because we have the dog track. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the West Coast I'm sure has a lot too because of the horse racing out there. So it doesn't surprise me, but it's an upper respiratory virus. Just like it is in people. It can create pneumonia, just like people, and it can spread really rapidly because dogs are not. I mean, they're animals. They're not hygienic. They don't wash their hands. They don't cover their mouths. So it spreads rapidly, and some dogs get very, very sick from it, and others don't.
And it's a highly contagious virus, which I think is really interesting because when we know that we have the flu, obviously we want to stay away from each other, or we have COVID or any other type of virus. Dogs are constantly all over each other. I would think that if you're at a doodah day or something where maybe even a park and your dog has influenza at the beginning of that, it would be quite a dangerous situation, correct?
Yeah, yeah, because they're always in each other's faces, and they're always licking each other and nosing each other, and that's where the virus comes from. And like I said, some dogs aren't incredibly affected by it for one reason or another. And for those dogs that may have very limited symptoms, they're gonna they're gonna spread it a lot because the owner doesn't know to keep them home, because the dog can't say, hey, you know what, I feel okay, but I don't feel great. Can we stay home today?
Yeah. He's Dr. Rab Stewart from the Rossbridge Animal Hospital, Rossbridge Vet on Twitter, and also 205-208-0301. You have a Facebook page, correct?
I do. Yeah. You can find us on Facebook, Rossbridge Animal Hospital.
So check that out as well. Go to TonyCurryRadio.net. That's TonyCurryRadio.net. At the bottom of the page, you can email us any questions about your pet care. And we've got a couple of mutt mailers here from Alex and Tim. My husband and wife constantly argue about the smartest breeds of dogs. My wife believes pit bulls are very smart and misunderstood. I've always had mutts, and they're the best pets I've ever had. What's some of the smartest breeds of dogs, and are there smarter breeds than others?
My dog is the smartest dog. He's listening right now.
And my dad's bigger than your dad.
Yeah, smartest dog in the world. He's the best boy. So everyone else you can just forget about it, because I have the best dog, and he's a mixed breed. He's a mutt. We don't know what he is. He came from the streets of Houston, but I mean, and to answer your question seriously, I always hear that herding breeds are super smart, and I don't know if that's true, but herding breeds are Australian Shepherds. Those are classically, one of the most well-regarded dogs when it comes to mental capacity. But any type of sporting dog, but hunting dogs. But I think that most dogs have the capacity to do those things, but it's just that the owner doesn't have a need. Like a Pekingese isn't going to go herd a cow. Maybe it could, if we gave it a shot, or a Pomeranian, or whatever. So I think that all dogs have the ability to learn, but I don't know that it would be breed specific. I wonder if it would be more just dog specific, because I've seen a lot of smart labs. I've seen a lot of dumb labs.
Yeah.
And that goes the same with other breeds as well. It's probably more not so much breed specific as it is dog specific.
See, and I've always thought that dogs are about as smart as their owners. Because if their owner, if they're right, they always say your animal starts looking more like you, you start looking more like your animal. But if you spend time with your animal to train it and go through the habits of teaching it to whatever it is, whether it's going potty training or putting its paw up and shaking hands or whatever, it's usually as smart as its owners. Let me ask you this: are there dumb dogs? Are there dogs that, quite frankly, are just really difficult to train just because it's a pre-genetic disposition? Are they mentally disabled? Are there some? Because I've been around some dogs that 2-3 years into it, I'm like, this ain't a real smart dog.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're dumb dogs, but sometimes I think the dogs that you can't train, they might be the smartest dogs, because they have their own will, and you can't break it. So. Sometimes I wonder if the dogs that you can't train are the smartest ones, but there are definitely dogs that don't have a great mental capacity, maybe from a birth defect, or there are certain breeds that have something called hydrocephalus, and Chihuahuas are one, French Bulldogs are one. These dogs that have these like big dome heads, it's a condition where they have a lot of fluid around their brain. And they're pretty obtunded or dull, mentally. They may not develop well. They may not be able to walk well and things like that. So there's definitely there are definitely cases and definitely breed specific things that would cause them to have what would be considered a mental disability.
You are listening to Dark Side of the Pooch with Dr. Rab Stewart from the Rossbridge Animal Hospital. We're on every single week, 8 o'clock right here. Winnie in Nashville writes in, this past Halloween, I decided I wanted to change the color of my dog. I was told it was safer to go to a groomer to get it done, but I decided to buy my own dye and do it myself. How long will my dog be blue, and was it safe to do myself?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you're using something that's made for dogs, and I'm sure you can get that stuff at pet stores anywhere. I mean, it's gonna last a while. It may even last several months until the hair grows out and you cut it. But we have a groomer at our office, and from time to time she's done dye jobs. One of the best dye jobs I ever saw is where I used to work. There was a guy there who's a huge Auburn fan. And he had this really cool little dog named Popeye, and he was an Auburn colored dog.
Yes,
he was a red dog, and the groomer, I don't know how she did this, but she put the most perfect tiger stripes on this dog, and it lasted. I gotta remember, but I feel like it lasted months, like the whole football season. And it was a beautiful job.
That's fantastic. Tommy writes in that he bought his dog an anti-bark collar because his dog barked at everything. It was the only dog he had, so he didn't think it was an issue with his other pets if he had any. And it worked brilliantly, but he now feels bad because he feels like that when his dog would bark, it is screaming for attention or basically trying to express itself, and now the dog no longer barks at all. Give me some ideas of how these anti-bark collars work. How long do you need to leave them on the dog? And then when you want your dog to bark, will they?
I think the dog is smart enough to know if the collar is on or not. So, because I hear stories of, dogs that have electric fences. And this goes back to, is the dog smart or is the dog not smart? And I think it's probably, it's a case by case basis. But you take the collar off of them and then they run away.
Yeah.
So I think that it could be similar with the bark collar. If you take it off, some dogs may be smart enough to know that they can bark. I don't have no problem with electric collars. But I don't know. I do maybe have a problem if they're used to stop a dog from barking. If you have an electric collar and you're using it so that the dog doesn't get into the garbage, or that doesn't, jump up on grandma and knock her down and break her hip, or doesn't eat your kid's food off the table or bite somebody, all those things are, you could argue that those behaviors could harm the dog. It could definitely be harmful to people. So those type behaviors that you have to correct. But the bark collars, just me personally, I just don't know that I would be okay with using them.
Yeah. Sheila writes in here, Mutt Mail on Dark Side of the Pooch, Rossbridge Animal Hospital's Dr. Rab Stewart joins us every single week for our big show and the fresh shows. And you can podcast those shows here in the next few days as well. Sheila has a special needs son, so this one hits home for me. And my son, who's 14, loves to have the dog lick him in the face to the point where he'll just laugh for hours on end. He just loves, and as long as his face is near the dog's face, the dog will continually lick the inside of his mouth, up his nose, his ears, his whole face. Is that okay? Is it safe for my child to be licked like that? She said it's disgusting, but he's happy, so she lets it go.
I mean, I think that in most situations it would be fine. But dogs do have a lot of bacteria in their mouths, and it depends on, how dirty their mouths are, or if there's an abrasion somewhere on whatever living thing that it's licking, whether it's another pet or a human. If there is an abrasion on the skin, then that can cause infection potentially. So, I mean, I think that it would be pretty rare for something like that to happen. But if someone were to ask me that question, and obviously they are, I would say just be cautious, because I think that there is a chance that a superficial or even a deep skin infection could potentially happen. But I think the stars would have to align. It would not be very common for that to happen.
Like most diseases, if they're animal born, normally they are not transferred to humans, although we've had other diseases from other animals certainly be that way. To get back to this flu story, if your dog has the flu and he licks your face, can you get the flu?
No, it's not something that it's going to be. The canine flu is not something that humans can get.
Okay. All right. You got anything you want to add this week?
Help control the pet population. Have your pet spayed or neutered.
There you go. Ross Bridge Vet at Ross Bridge Vet on Twitter. It's Ross Bridge Animal Hospital's Dr. Rab Stewart. The number is 205-208-0301. 205-208-0301. And I do want to mention it's already early November, so if you're talking about perhaps having your pet boarded for the holidays, which is going to be here before you know it, they should call you guys, right?
We're full. We're already full.
Are you already full?
Yeah, we're already full. We're in the early stages of trying to expand. We would over double our kennel capacity, so we're looking into that. We've taken the first few steps, so we're hoping that we're going to be able to have that done, maybe by early 2022.
You may have an investor here in that, because I know how difficult that is. Dr. Rab, thank you so much, brother. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, man. Enjoyed it.
You got it. That is Darkside of the Pooch.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.